A very good morning to one and all. So today we'll be discussing an important topic in environmental science, just nothing but a topic in pollution. So today's topic is about air pollution and its health hazards. Okay, yes. So in this class, by the end of this class, we'll be able to describe about what are definition of air pollution to WHO, and then what are the various sources of air pollution, how to control it, and what are the health effects that is caused by the air pollution. Okay, so we'll see this one by one. By the end of the class, you might be able to answer everything. Okay, so first let us see what is the definition of air pollution given by WHO. It is nothing but contamination of indoor or outdoor environment by any chemical, physical, or biological agent that modifies the natural characteristics of atmosphere and interferes with health of the living beings. So in this, you have to see two important words, which is indoor and outdoor environment. So usually, if air pollution is word when it comes to your mind, you will think about common things like industries and automobiles. Okay, everything is outer environment. Okay, so, but also one of the major causes of air pollution is also indoor air pollution, okay, which everyone forgets to see. They just neglect it, okay, but it is also one of the major causes. So, more than outdoor, we should also keep in mind that indoor air pollution is also one of the major causes, okay. So, we'll see in the upcoming slides what are the causes and how can be prevented, okay. So, now let's see about the source of air pollution one by one. As I said before, the most common sources, as you all know, it is automobiles. So it is one of the major cause of air pollution. It is basically, you can see this in the urban areas. Okay, so they emit hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, lead, etc. Okay, so and also diesel engines emit black smoke. Okay, so that is also another type of air pollution. Not only it emits dangerous oxides like nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide. It also emits smokes and also malodorous fumes, that is toxic fumes. Okay, so automobiles is one of the major common causes. Next, as I said before, industries is one of the major causes next to automobiles. Many industries, they emit large amount of pollutants in the atmosphere. Okay, it is due to the combustion of fuels which produces sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and ash to release in the air, which eventually causes air pollution. Many industries also discharge carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, hydrogen sulfide, etc. These are also harmful pollutants that have been released in the atmosphere. And the next source is domestic sources. This is nothing but you can see in India major populations, except from the urban places, rural areas are the major part of India. Okay, so they are most occupied rather than urban areas. So there they use fuels mainly by they cook using wood. Okay, they're burning wood. So automatically it also leads to one of the sources for air pollutions. Also combustion of coals, where they burn coal in electric in production of electricity, right? So major part of India they produce electricity by burning coal only. In Tamil Nadu also you can see where it is, where it is located. It is located in the Neyveli, okay, Neyveli Lignite Corporation. So there they burn coal and they produce electricity. So burning coals and burning the wood for cooking purposes, all these also added to the air pollutants. Okay, and another source is nothing but tobacco smoking. This is also one of the major thing in India. Many people smoke here. So here the smoking not only affects the person who smokes, but also it affects the person next to them, right? So by passive smoking, it also affects the surrounding people. So this one of the major thing you have to take into concern. Okay. And then natural resources, this is not in our hands, but it occurs naturally in the environment, which is nothing but volcanic emissions. If a volcano erupts, automatically there will be a lot of smoke and ash coming out of it. That is also another pollutants. And then forest fire, it occurs randomly, but it also occurs in a huge mass number, so automatically it emits large of smoke and it releases a lot of toxic pollutants. And then in desert countries, you can see sandstorms. This also affects the quality of air. So automatically, this is also one of the sources of air pollution. Okay, and then miscellaneous sources like burning refuse. Refuse nothing but waste. All our wastes are incinerated mostly, right? Some are put in the landfill and some are being incinerated. So while burning this waste, also automatically, toxic air will come out of this. Okay, and it will also pollute the atmosphere. And then spraying pesticides, it is nothing but when you spraying pesticide now, automatically the toxic substance in the pesticide will spread to the air. Okay, so this is also one of the major reasons for air pollution. And then in nuclear energy programs, automatically they use a lot of substances which produces smoke, and affects the atmosphere. Okay, till now we have seen the sources of air pollution. Now we will see the what are the meteorological factors that also lead to air pollution. First one is Earth atmosphere. So within the first 30 kilometer of atmosphere, Earth holds the major atmospheric gases. So automatically within this first 30 kilometers only, all the contents like toxic substances, toxic pollutants will also be present. Okay, in our breathable space. So it is the Earth atmosphere is naturally behaving that way, so it automatically leads to the stagnant of all the pollutants in our breathing space. So this is also one of the reason. And then the level of pollution, the amount of air pollution that occurs also depends on the air movement, topography, and the climate change. Everything affects the air pollution. And basically, one main thing is wind. The speed of the wind, the direction of the wind also, may dilute the pollutants. Sometimes also it concentrate the pollutants also, because if there is, imagine there is a, but when there is a air pollution in particular place, okay, so if the wind is blowing in one direction, it automatically will carry the pollutants from this place to another place, right? So the direction of the wind, speed of the wind, it all depends on the factors. Okay, these are the factors for air pollution, maintaining the level of air pollution. Mountains and tall buildings also becomes one of the reason, because if pollutant is coming from one direction now, when it hits the mountains or tall buildings now, it automatically disperses and remains stagnant in that place. Okay, so it is not flowing freely. When a mountain or tall building is there, now it automatically blocks the transmission of the pollutants, and due to this blockage, automatically it stagnates in this area, right? So the people living in this area will automatically get bad air. Okay, so this is also another reason. And then a rapid cooling of the lower layers leads to the pollutants trapped in the breathing space. That is called smog. So what is smog now? We will see in the upcoming slides. You will understand more clearly. For now, you just remember the word smog. It is one of the important terms. Okay. Okay. First, you have seen the source of air pollution, and then what are the meteorological factors that leads to air pollution. Now we will see what are the air pollutants that's commonly present in our Earth. So these are the air pollutants: carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, lead, hydrocarbon, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, ozone, cadmium, oxides of nitrogen, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and particulate matter. So now we will see this one by one. Okay. First thing is carbon monoxide, which is a very common air pollutant. It is colorless and odorless. Okay. It is a product of incomplete combustion of carbon containing material, such as automobiles, industry processing, generators. So everywhere where they burn materials, now automatically carbon monoxide will get released. So this is in most cities now. The carbon monoxide level will peak during morning and evening rush hours. Why? Because the automobiles now, that is the number one cause, right? Before industries. So when this automobile is mostly used during morning time when going to work, and the evening time when they return from the work, right? So during that morning and evening hour only, this carbon monoxide level will peak automatically in the cities. So what does carbon monoxide does to our body? It deprives the body of oxygen, which leads to headache, fatigue, and impaired vision. Okay, and then next one is sulfur dioxide. It is occurs due to the combustion of sulfur containing fossil fuels. Okay, why the fossil fuels? Why are you burning fossil fuels? To get there are many reasons. Okay, so basically they use fossil fuel to get petroleum, and then they get sometimes they get electricity too. Okay, so since they burn that fossil fuel now, automatically sulfur dioxide is released. Okay, so this sulfur dioxide, what it does to our body, it actually irritates the eyes and it also narrows the airway, okay, which causes wheezing, shortness of breath. Especially the people with asthma, they suffer more due to this carbon dioxide, the sulfur dioxide. Sorry. So this is one problem. Okay, breathing sulfur dioxide is itself one problem. If the sulfur dioxide, when reaches the air, it combines with the water molecules present in the cloud. Okay, it automatically turns to sulfuric acid, which is one of the major reasons, major regions in many cities and places. Okay, so the sulfuric acid is nothing but it is commonly called as acid rain. Okay, you might have heard this term. It is very very common. Okay, so from this image you can clearly see what happens when the sulfur dioxide releases in the atmosphere. It carries by the wind and mixes with the water molecules in the cloud, and then it descends in the city back as acid rain. This acid rain, it is very, very dangerous. It kills plant life, it pollutes the river and streams, and then it also, when it rains down in the buildings now, it automatically erodes the building stonework, etc. Everything. Okay, so this is one of the major problem due to sulfur dioxide. And next comes nitrogen dioxide. This is nothing but a reddish brown gas. It is produced when nitric oxide combines with oxygen in the atmosphere. So how it is nitric oxide is released in the air now? It is burning through the coal. Where coal is burned, as I said before, it is majorly used for producing electricity. So as they burn this coal now, automatically nitric oxide is released in the air, which in turn forms nitrogen dioxide. So this also present in the car exhaust and power plants. Okay, as I said, coal is burnt in the power plants only. So what this nitrogen dioxide does to the body? It affects lungs, it causes wheezing, bronchitis, and also reduces ultimately reduces the lung function. Okay. So as in the previous slide, I told you to remember the word smog. So now we'll see what is smog. Smog is nothing but smoke plus fog. So that is how the word smog came into function. Now we'll see how it forms. When the nitrogen oxides, as in the previous slides, when the nitrogen oxide combines with organic compounds or hydrocarbons in the presence of an inversion layer, this thing forms as a smog due to the trapping of these pollutants by the air, and then it is present in our breathable space, okay, as a smog. As it is seen as a brown air. So usually now hot air only present in the our breathable atmosphere. Okay, if you go above now, after some point only cold air will be present. Okay, so in bottom will be hot air. As you go above, it will then temperature will reduce, and you get cold air. So like that, in some layers, suddenly after the cold air now, there will be formation of inversion layer. That is another hot air layer will be forming. So due to this formation of hot air layer below the cold air layer, so when this nitric oxide and organic compounds form, they might try to escape our breathing space. That is, they try to go up. So when they try to go up now, automatically this hot layer blocks it. So automatically there is no way to this toxic smog to go up in the atmosphere. So automatically it stays here and it is present in our breathable space. So this is only a reason for the formation of smog. Since it is a breathable space now, automatically we breathe it and it pollutes the air and it causes our health problems. Okay, so it's nothing but the inversion layer forms as a plastic wrap around our breathing space. So automatically it traps the smog within our breathing space that leads to many complications in our body. So next comes lead. It is sourced nothing but by burning materials containing lead during recycling, leaded paints, lead aviation fuel that is nothing but fuel used for aeroplanes. So due to that fuel also lead is released in the air. Lead in our body it is stored mainly in teeth and bones. These are the major places where the lead is stored. So who are at risk for this lead poisoning? Now, undernourished children and pregnant women are more prone to risk. Okay. So what this lead does to our body? It directly attacks the central nervous system. It reduces intelligence, reduced attention span, and also by in turn for a chronic period now it leads to mental retardation. Okay. So next comes one of the main things. You might have heard of this ozone, right? So usually ozone is already present in our earth layer. Okay. It is a normal thing. When it is present above the layer, outermost layer, now it is a normal thing. Okay. This ozone only protects the our earth from you know UV rays that is coming from the sun. Now it bounces off the UV rays without reaching the earth. So the normal ozone layer at the outermost layer of the earth actually acts as a protection layer. So the problem is when the same ozone is formed within the ground level now, that is the problem. Okay. So in the previous slide, I told how smog is getting trapped in our breathable airspace. I told there will be an inversion layer acting as a plastic wrap around Earth. So that inversion layer is only the ozone layer, okay, that is at the ground level. This only acts as a circle in the Earth, and it protects the harmful pollutants from going above the atmosphere. It traps them within our breathing space. So basically, ozone layer at above the outermost level is normal. We need that actually. But the ozone layer at the ground level is dangerous for us. So that is only reason for creating smog. So this is how this inversion layer is formed. Now it is formed from the reaction of sunlight with the pollutants from the vehicles and industries. Okay, that is nitric oxide, as I said before. So currently, Europe country now they are in the most concerned place due to this ozone layer forming in the ground level. Okay, so this picture clearly explains it. In the stratosphere, that is outermost layer, the ozone acts as a protective layer for it by blocking the UV rays. But when this ozone is present in the troposphere, now that is where the problem occurs. Since this ozone, you know, it traps a smog within a breathable space. Okay. Next comes, polynuclear hydrocarbon. So this is PAH. Okay, produced by incomplete combustion of organic materials like wood, coal, oil, tobacco, etc. They can bind with ash particles and they can move to a very long distance. They can travel from through very long distances with the help of as I said before, wind. So the speed of the wind, direction of the wind, majorly contributes to the spreading of this pH particles to long distances. So who are the people with high exposure? They are nothing but the smokers, road builders, people having living near industries. These are the people who are more prone to this pH compound. So prolonged exposure to this pH leads to the formation of skin cancer and lung cancer in the persons. Okay. And then this is nothing but complete mixture of organic and inorganic substances. Okay. It is called as particulate matters. Okay. Shortly they called as PM. So what is the composition of this PM? It consists of carbon, mineral dust, nitrate, sulfate, everything combines to form this single particle called particulate matter. So there are various sizes for this particulate matter. So based on this size now, we can say how much deep it can reach in our human body. For example, here you can see a 10 micron size of particulate matter might reach up to the nose on trachea. Okay, and if it is 2 point very small size of 2.5 microns now, it might reach up to the alveoli of our lungs. When it is less than 100 nanometers now, it can even reach the minute blood capillaries inside our body, which is very dangerous. Okay, so depending on its size, can reach anywhere in our body. what this particular matter causes in our body. It is nothing but it aggravates the heart and lung disease. It increases risk of respiratory infection. Okay. So greenhouse effect. The Earth's greenhouse effect, it is what makes the planet suitable for life. Okay. You might have heard this term greenhouse effect. So let me explain it for you in an easy way. Okay. So basically, I said now gases like water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, all these gases are called as greenhouse gases. Okay. They absorb heat from the earth, and these gases are referred to as greenhouse gases. Okay, so basically what these greenhouse gases does now, so the earth is receiving heat, right? So this greenhouse gas only regulates the heat inside our earth. So they absorb some of the heat, they maintain some of the heat inside the earth, and then they bounce back the rest of the heat back into the space. So basically, they are a air conditioner for our earth. You can remember it that way. So they basically, you use you guys use my guys might use AC in your home, right? So it maintains the temperature in your room. Similarly, these greenhouse gases maintains the temperature of the earth. Okay. So what they does basically is now they trap the heat inside our earth so that only our earth is uh, warm, which actually made this planet suitable for life. Otherwise, the heat won't be trapped inside our earth. It might be cold, and automatically there won't be any possibilities of life. So this particular normal temperature of the earth is maintained by these greenhouse gases, which is the main reason for the people living here. Okay, so this is up to a normal thing. But what happens if these things like carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, everything increases? You know, that is where the problem kicks in. So if, for example, let's take one thing, okay, let's take carbon dioxide. If carbon dioxide keeps on increasing in our atmosphere now, so what is its normal duty? Its normal duty is to trap some heat inside the earth to make the earth, warm, right? So that our life will be suitable here. So if there are more carbon dioxide released in the air now, automatically what will happen? It will trap more heat, back to back. It will keep on trapping more heat. So automatically the normal temperature of the earth will be increased after a particular time. So this is the reason which leads to a phenomenon called global warming. Okay, everyone might have heard it. So the earth is, normally greenhouse gases are good. Okay, so but if the greenhouse gases kept on increasing the atmosphere, it automatically increases the heat of the earth also. Even increase by 1 to 2 degree Celsius might cause catastrophic events in the earth. Okay, so that is we are witnessing it right now. In future, it might be very very catastrophic. So we might actually address it and try to reduce it as soon as possible. So this phenomenon is called actually global warming. Okay, okay. Till now we have seen about outdoor air pollution. As is previously said, everyone is aware of outside air pollution, and we are trying to control it. But everyone is neglecting the main thing, which is equally dangerous. That is indoor air pollution. So we will see what is it. Okay, as I said before, it actually contributes more to the exposure than the outside environment. It is not even 50-50. This causes more 60-70%. This is only the main reason. But we are focusing only on the outdoor environment. Okay. So as you see in the statistics, 2.7 billion burned biomass was actually used in the worldwide. The exposure is particularly high among women and children. Why so? Because as you see in villages and all, husband might go to work, the female only will cook, that is using the wood and wood, using wood, they cook the food. So the child is also present beside the mother only, villages and all. So automatically, when they burn the wood now, they prone to inhale the air. So, and also the child beside them, it is also, you know, prone to smoke the same air. So hence, this woman and children are more prone to this indoor air pollution. Okay, this is the crux of the pollutants and or how they are caused. Okay, so respirable particles, it is caused by tobacco smoke, stove, aerosol spray. Carbon monoxide is caused by combustion equipment and gas heaters. Sulfur dioxide, as I said, because of coal combustion and fossil fuel combustion. Carbon monoxide also, combustion and vehicle transmission. Okay, and then other pollutants like formaldehyde, benzene, ozone. No, these are also plays a major role in air pollution. Okay, this picture clearly explains three main problems that is, it causes, or we can say it leads to increase in air pollution. Okay, so the first one you can see ozone depletion. This ozone depletion, that is, this ozone we are talking about the outermost normal ozone layer, which actually we need, but actually it gets depleted. Okay, due to the release of chlorine and bromine. Okay, uh, the this also harmful gases like chlorine and bromine also are harmful gases. Due to the release of these gases, they go to the topmost outermost layer of the atmosphere and destroy this ozone. You might have heard this term like there is a hole in the ozone layer. So these gases only cause these holes. So if there is a hole in the outermost ozone layer, now automatically the ultraviolet rays will enter the earth. So this ultraviolet ray will cause many problems to our health conditions. So ozone depletion is one problem. And then greenhouse gas effect. Some long wave radiation is also absorbed by greenhouse gases and re-emitted to Earth. As I said before, this greenhouse gas, increase in this greenhouse gases leads to global warming. Okay. And then air quality. And due to a formation of inversion ozone layer in the breathable airspace, which traps the compounds like nitrogen oxide and organic compounds and produces smog. It is also another major cause for air pollution. Okay. Okay. Till now we have seen what we have seen source of air pollution, what are meteorological factors, and we have seen each air pollutants. Okay. So now we will see what are the effects of this air pollution. Okay. So these effects are turned into health aspects and social and economic aspects. Okay. So first we see health aspect, what it causes to our health. Immediately, it causes a respiratory system failure, acute bronchitis, and even death by suffocation. These are immediate problems. That is very acute problems. It might happen suddenly. Okay. So, what are the chronic problems? It might also cause some long problems for long duration. This is nothing but chronic bronchitis, lung cancer, bronchial asthma, emphysema, and respiratory allergies. These are caused due to a prolonged exposure of this air pollutants. Okay, what does it particularly cause on children? You know, it leads to low birth weight. It causes preterm births. Intermittent birth retardation may also be seen, and it produces asthma in children, and acute respiratory infections. Prolonged exposure to benzene may lead to CNS, that is central nervous system tumors, and then exposure to lead. As I said before, lead is stored in the body where it is stored mainly in teeth and bones, right? Okay, so prolonged exposure to lead might lead to cognitive impairment of the children also. Okay. As I said before, the health aspects is we have completed it. Now we'll see about the social and economic aspects. So basically main thing is destruction of plant and animal life and corrosion of metals. This is caused by one factor which we discussed before. What is the it is nothing but acid rain. I said before, acid rain only destroys the forest, due to raining down, and also it corrodes the buildings, metals, etc. Okay. Okay. You might have seen this place in India where it is present. Okay, that's right. It is a India Gate. Okay, so you can see two pictures taken of by in the same place, but in different time periods. On one side of picture, you can clearly see the India Gate. Okay, but on another side, it is completely invisible and opaque. This is due to the presence of smog in this area. Okay, so this also causes visibility in the town. You cannot see who is coming in the opposite direction. This might leads to, while driving, it may lead to accident. And many problem might occur due to the invisibility. Okay. And also, damage to the buildings. Okay. You know this major place, right? It is Taj Mahal located in India. Okay. So nowadays you can see now it is not in white color, it is in a slightly yellowish color. You know why this reason is? It is due to the same acid rain. Okay. So automatically when the acid rain hits the marble now, it corrodes and destroys the rock surface. So automatically the shine, white shine might vanish, and it nowadays it is seen as pale yellow in color. So this is it also damages the acid rain basically damages these monumental buildings. Okay, and the cost of cleaning and maintenance also very high due to this. They have to clean the entire building and they have to maintain the color so that people might visit this regularly. So the cost of the cleaning and maintenance is also becoming high. There's also another major problem. Okay, everything is happening around here. So someone have to monitor this and prevent this, right? So it is done by Central Pollution Control Board. Okay, this Central Pollution Control Board they monitor every pollution and they try to rectify it. So for air pollution, they have initiated a program called NAQMP. It is nothing National Air Quality Monitoring Program. It is started by this Central Pollution Board in 1984. Okay, so they have totally 308 operating stations in 115 cities and 4 union territories. So they actually have a monitoring station which works in 24 hours. Okay, 24 hours they monitor the quality in the particular city. So they basically monitor SO2, NO2, and SPM, that is a particular matter, 10 micron size. Okay, so as you can see in many places now in this 115 cities, you can see there will be display board in at the center of the city or in some main area of the city. There it will be running like a running commentary. You can see the now this is today's air quality index. Like that, they will mention the air quality index that will be running 24 hours. Okay. So whatever the point it changes now, it changes in live. It is a good initiative actually, so that people might know what is the condition of their city, and they if they it is worse now, they might try to adopt themselves. And okay, so it is actually a good initiative. It not only monitors the gases, it also monitors the wind speed and direction, relative humidity, temperature. No, because these are the meteorological factors that affects the pollutants. Okay, so they monitor all these things so that they can take necessary action to prevent and control the pollution from occurring. Okay, as I said before, the monitoring is carried out in for 24 hours continuously. Okay, so next comes the last part is prevention and control. They have done it in the four methods: containment, replacement, dilution, legislation. We'll see this one by one. Containment is nothing but rather than letting it loose in the surrounding spaces, we'll try to enclosure it by putting per perfect wall, roof, or tent, so that it is not exposed to the neighboring places. Okay, and then proper ventilation, which prevents the pollutants from building up inside the place. And then proper air cleaning system, that is filter system. If in industries now there will be a chimney, right? So it will let the toxic air out. But if you put a filter, proper filter in the chimney now, there won't be any release of toxic substance in the air, right? So automatically this filter will filter the toxic substances, and only non-toxic substance only will release in the outside the chimney. So by putting the filter system also, we can prevent this thing. These are the steps for containment. That is enclosing the toxic substance within the space. And then next one is replacement. Instead of using this, example, let's take example for this replacement. Instead of burning coal for producing electricity, we can use other things like solar power, hydro water power. As you see in the dams and all, we can see electric belt that is pleasant by due to the water force they are producing electricity. You can see windmill due to the air circulation, they're producing electricity. Likewise, in solar power, by sun rays, they are heat, they are producing electricity. So these conventional methods can be used to produce electricity rather than the common method like burning coal, releasing toxic substances, right? And then in aeroplanes, we can use de-leaded petrol so that there won't be any, lead waste that is present in the air, right? So these are the steps that is we are replacing toxic substances with non-toxic substances, okay? And then dilution, that is nothing but a green belts between industries and residential areas. See, you can see in a city now there won't be any industrial area inside the center of the city. It will be usually present on the outskirts of the city. Why so? Why not in the center of the city? Because in the outskirts now you can see there will be a lot of forest-like areas that is surrounded by many trees and all. Even if you see in many major industries, there it will be present inside the forest area or surrounded by trees only. Because this green belt, that is the forest or trees present around the industry, will purify the air. If the toxic air is leaking from the industry, it automatically purifies, dilutes the toxic air. So this is another method for reducing the air pollution. And the legislation nothing but putting certain acts by the government to produce to maintain the air pollution. That is announcing some areas as smokeless zones. That is there they should not burn any fuels or anything. So that is called smokeless zone. So it is one legislation. And the height of the chimneys. Taller chimney might reduce the concentration nearby. If it is short now, the toxic substance will release within our breathable vicinity. If the chimney is very high now, it may release into the outer atmosphere, right? So it is not reachable to our breathing vicinity. So like this, if you put the legislations by the government now, the people will fall automatically because they can't go against the government. So legislation also plays a major role in this thing. And then this disinfection of air is basically done in the college and the hospital setups. It is mechanical ventilation. It produces the pollutants density inside the room by constantly, changing the air quality inside the room. Okay. And then ultraviolet radiation, that is UV lamps. You can see UV lamps, blue color UV lamps kept in the OT, and then wards and all, because it lacks as a bactericide in the air. Okay. And then dust control, you can use oil to the floor in the hospital wards. If you pour oil it automatically the dust will settle down in the oil and it won't be in the air for a long time. These are some of the methods to control the air pollution within the hospital areas. Okay. So that's it for today class. We have seen the sources of air pollution, meteorological factors that leads to air pollution, what are the air pollutants, and then how to what are the effects it's causing to the human body, and at last how to prevent and control it. Okay. So that's it for the today in air pollution. Next class we'll see another kinds of pollution in this environmental chapter. Okay. Thank you.